All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Chasing Edges podcast. This took some resiliency to get this episode on, but I got Coach Darleen Santore, the mental skills coach to the monsters of pro sports and basketball, golf, football, baseball, all the above. But Dar, thank you for joining me.
Thanks, buddy. I'm
right.
so glad you're here.
Oh, man, we had a technical nightmare, but thank God Dar, once upon a time, was in the podcast game and may newly become part of the podcast game. But we're on new equipment and we're ready to ride now. But Dar, we've already had a few days together where we've got into the deep water conversations and that kind of thing. But just to start, if you could just kind of give your background real quick and then kind of what you do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I started out, I'm an occupational therapist by background, and I started out taking care of patients with traumatic brain injury. So listen, it's, the average person, someone, it could be athlete running a company, and their whole world is changed by a car accident. And what happens is they would come into my place, and I was the one that had to get them cognitively and physically game ready again, meaning that they had to create a new normal. And, that is the most pressing time. And I always start with this because this is when adversity is at its worst, where people think there's no more hope. And my job was to help. I'm a hope dealer.
Yeah.
I was there to help them get ready and get back. And when they wanted to literally turn and say, I'm done, Dar, I can't keep doing this, I had to keep them back in the game. I had no idea how critical this would be for where I am today, because here I was helping people cognitively. So my background's in neuro in the brain and helping people regain that new normal. And then at 25, I'm working on the neuro unit, and I suffer my own stroke. I'd gone to a chiropractor, and when I went to the chiropractor, they manipulated my neck. It's a risk, and it ripped the vertebral artery of my brain, and I was bleeding in the brain.
Oh, my goodness.
And it created a blood clot that, long story short, is they didn't catch it fast enough, so I was left with a blood clot. I found out I had my stroke, and then they said, but good news is you have scar tissue around it. But if it dislodges, you could die any day. So it was that moment when I'm sitting there going like, well, screw fear. I don't have fear anymore because I could die any day, so let's go.
Yeah. So hold on. That was your initial reaction, like it's not wrap myself in bubble wrap.
Oh, no. Yeah. No. I never thought about that till you just said that.
That's savage.
It was kind of where I was like, wow, this is crazy. I went into action mode. What do I need to do to conquer this? And then, well, I don't know what my runway is, which you hear me say all the time, then let's go. So at that moment, I was like, well, I want to go fix healthcare. And I was 25. I didn't have the ability. But I applied for this role, this job, to run a massive healthcare organization. And you know what? I tell this part of the story because the COO said, let her come and interview. She doesn't have the qualifications, but she gave me the inspiration to say, go do this. So while I was working, I went back to school for business. This led me then to I ended up running a large healthcare company, was president by 28, a recording studio in Nashville, record label. I ran a staffing company. I ran, with a recording studio, a record label, a staffing company, a healthcare company.
How do you deviate to the record company?
The owner owned all of these.
Okay.
And when he took some of us and put them in. So I was president of one, COO of another. And I was running healthcare operations on Monday, on a flight, running operations of a recording studio and working with artists mentally, getting them ready. And this quickly became a formula for me because in 2008, I left everything to start my own practice, which in 2008, you don't leave. It's kind of like when we just hit what we hit and everyone's like, bunker down. I left everything secure and was like, I've got to go help people. And my father's like, I would have shoveled sugar for what you're making. He didn't say that. He's like, you're going to go start what? And I'm like, I literally started mixing my psychology, my science, my neuro background with leadership. And I was like, everything in sports and in life and leadership is all the mental game. And this is before mental conditioning was even a fad. This is before people were even talking about this. But I was just driven by my passion and knowing what I know, going, people are giving up because they lost their job or because they have to change their identity, or maybe they even lost a lot of money. This is no reason to give up. This is just reframing your mindset. And this literally set up everything that I do today. And so since 2008, I've been running my own practice, helping people both. I work in pro sports and coach top CEOs to reframe their mindset so they could awaken greatness, so they could achieve, cut down on limiting beliefs, increase their confidence, overcome struggle, and then helping them also just excel in their life. Like, where do you want to go? Then let's set it and go. Because I don't believe there's a limitation to anything. It's just how you see it. So that became my world, and that's what I do. I coach around the country doing this.
That's monstrous. That's absolutely incredible. Just the concept, because like that's built in resiliency. Like whether it was your stroke or again whatever that, like the economic downfall and those kind of things, you're coaching humans to be more human.
Yeah.
And
yes.
and the identity aspect of it, it's tough to shed an identity. It's tough to transition from sport or lose a job and start at the bottom of the hill again. And all that is just, it is a reframing. And we've talked about it, and like reframing your view on the heat and the cold by getting in the ice tub and things like that. But reframing your identity from the aspect that it's okay that things change. It's okay that things die. Parts of you die in order to get to this next hill, mountain, that kind of concept. And that's where like the transition to, I think this is incredibly potent in sports because it's adversity everywhere. Like
right.
One, it's hard to get into sports in general. Like it's hard to get your foot in the door, and then once you get there, maintain leverage. And so that's
right.
like its own variant of
right.
adversity. So you being in professional sports on the reg right now, what do you see as like the underlying like themes of what is like pretty potent or like pretty emphasized in like your line of work?
You know, the irony of this is right now, because you're hearing about people talking about mental resiliency, mental health, mental skills, like people are now right now so much more aware of upping their mental skills game. They're wanting to get, honestly, chasing edges. They're trying to like find what's the next edge, because they're realizing, okay, we're figuring out kind of a lot of these bio and life hacks now. But now it's like, how do I hack my mental game? And so that's been a big conversation that I have with a lot of guys coaching in all the arenas. And when I was the Phoenix Suns mental conditioning coach and traveling with them, a lot of them also came to me, and while keeping confidentiality, just a lot of the themes were just how to handle life too. Because as you know, the higher up you go, the lonelier it gets. And so loneliness was a big topic. And just loneliness, trust, obviously confidence, and then how to stay on top of your game so you could sustain this in the sport and stay in the sport as long as you can. So that's been still a reoccurring theme. And let me tell you, loneliness is actually the #1 health epidemic that we have right now that came out. And so we know that sedentary lifestyles and all of that, but in sports, it's actually loneliness. And with, sorry guys, but with gaming and sitting in the room, and I know that you could talk and connect, and that's connection, but you still need human connection.
Yeah, I think that's massive. And like we obviously preach that and Mind Strong, and like it's just like, and I've been the lone wolf too, where like I've lived alone. Like I've put boundaries on my sleep and things along those lines, where it like and it's like it's the circle of 5 that we've talked about the last couple of days. Like you need people around you to like help set the standard, hold you accountable, challenge your beliefs, those type of things. That like that's how you grow. And like you can do the self-observation and the self-assessment and those kind of things. That's great, and that's an incredible tool. But there's still people, like everybody has a massively different perspective. And if you keep quote unquote better people around you, smarter people, things like that, like you're always going to keep leveling up into this, again, like this edge. And like, but lonely, you need the perspective on loneliness.
Right.
And like like I see it in like with the big dogs in pro sports, because like they can't do a lot of the social connection things like the nobodies like me can do, because like you can't go to a Smoothie King and get a smoothie without, hey, can I get a picture? Can you want like and then you had that really cool line the other day where I think it was Coach K said, like when Kobe showed up to the Olympic team, like he didn't know how to shake hands and make eye contact. Like that makes complete sense to me. Like you lose that social connection, that's social norm per se. Maybe that's not the best way to say hi to somebody, but like I think that level of interaction needs to be attended to. Yeah.
And you know, I think I remember seeing in The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary in the series, but he's like, there was a point where he's sitting there on the couch and he's like, when I get up, there's going to be about 1,000 people right out there. And he's like, and this is it. So he stays in this little room, and he's close friends with the security guys.
Yeah.
Because it's hard for him to have anything else outside of that when he walks around, and it becomes so hard. And you know, there's a blessing and a curse with everything. With fame comes a lot of that. So it's really trying to figure out who you could trust, who you could put around you. And I have to deal work with people in this, both in sports and top CEOs. I mean, I had someone, they had me flown out to their house. The house was 40,000 square feet, and I was brought to the basement of the house for them to talk to me privately. And they said, we've conquered everything. Everyone knows who we are around the world. And yet we have no joy because we've lost our purpose. So there's a chef, there's a pilot, there's someone running the companies. Like, people come and use our lawn for philanthropic events, but who really wants to know us as us?
Yeah.
And so they lost their purpose and their way. And that happens in sports and in business.
No, I completely believe that. And it's like, just a curiosity thing for me, like, do you notice a different, like, is there a different sport to sport, like NBA to NFL to golf, those things, or is it still like
No, I mean, there's more loneliness in certain, definitely, leagues. I mean, just look at even in, I don't want to call out any one of them, but there is definitely a difference. And just remember I will say Olympic level too. Olympic level, you're kind of on your own. You're like a lone star, and you're training this for 4 years for that one chance. It gets very isolating. As far as sports too, I mean, look how hard the mental game of golf is. You're pretty much walking by yourself. Whereas basketball and even hockey, football too, but the plays are so fast that even if you're getting your head, the play is fast, and then you have the camaraderie of a whole team around you. Football, you have a lot more guys than you do in the NBA and in hockey. So baseball has a few more, but so it does vary, and that does affect you. But here's the thing. You could still be in a crowd of people and still be super lonely.
Super real.
Yeah.
But I think that's why the mental skills is so massive to not only athletes, but every single human, because like, you can feel like that at work. You can feel like that at the grocery store. It's very prevalent. So I guess an action step then, like, how do you push people out of that mindset, out of that? Because I believe that, like, the mental narratives are so powerful.
Yeah.
And like, even like healing the child in myself, like now that I've dabbled in therapy, like you don't realize how deep those roots go. So like, and it shifts your whole lens on life. So I guess the action step wise, how do you push people out of that or like pull people out of that loneliness?
Well, like, so say I'm meeting with someone and they're trying to work on increasing their game, but I notice that in this, they have this loneliness within them. And I'll say, who's your tribe? I'll go right to that, because I need to help them organize a tribe that they could trust, that they could FaceTime, that they could call, because whether that's family, friends, or whatever we create with the tribe it's going to be a tribe that wants to be around them for them, not because they want the lifestyle. And your tribe helps become your strength. It really does. Because when you feel like someone's got your back, whether you are playing in the professional sports or not, it gives you confidence, because you no longer are trying to appease everyone. Because if it all fell apart, you still got the people that are by your side. This goes with the same theory of the blue zones. So the blue zones are the areas in the world. I don't want to be misquoted, there might be 7 blue zones, but it's the places where people are the happiest. It's in communities where everyone takes care of each other. So what I want to do with the player is I want them to create a community where they feel like they can contribute to someone else's life other than sport too.
It's got to be a two-way street.
Yep. And they have people that will contribute to them. So once I could lock in that for them, and they will have me, like, once I start coaching some other I'm Italian. Once you're in my world, you are family. You're like,
right.
You hear it all the time. I'm like, love you, brother. Because that's the other thing. Like, I would literally go up and give people hugs because I think physical touch has been lost. And I don't mean it in like a weird way, but you've got to be around and you've got to have human contact, and you have to have people that you know are really real. So what's your tribe? And then I also try to get them to some sort of level. I bring this up, but I have worked with over 100,000 people. So this is statistics in that the people that feel less alone have a connection to faith. There is something bigger that they feel is guiding them so they don't feel so alone. So then they feel like they have purpose. Like, how can I use my gifts to meet the world's needs? How can I serve? How can I contribute? When I get people to move in that sort of mindset, it starts to take off of me and move to we, and it starts to feel like it's something bigger than sports. And by the way, that doesn't mean I'm not working with them to be like, all right, no, let's go kick ass on the field. Like, let's go. Bring everything that you need. But I'm getting them to see that there's a bigger picture. Like, that's one aspect of your world that you're training everything on, but there's another aspect so you feel supported. So it's faith, it's tribe, it's purpose, it's connection. And I would say that's like the start of a good formula for them.
Yeah, no doubt. The faith, the thing bigger than you, like you can call it whatever you want, call him whatever you want, but it has a weird humbling effect
It
where
does.
where it is a connection based thing, because like I'm trying to deconstruct it a little bit. It's like the same as like being a fan of the game.
Yeah.
Like you have something to bond with
Yeah.
over this belief in the team. And it's a pretty simple concept, because it's really just a tribe. Like Christianity becomes a tribe, Muslim, whatever it ends up being. Like it's, and like the whole, there's something deeper there about the belief in something, again, bigger than yourself.
And we're tribal. So that makes perfect sense. You find your tribe.
Yeah, and it's just kind of on the scaling, just because we're in the department. I was talking to Michael Easter about it, where the size of the tribe has been massively increased due to social medias and connection online, all those kind of things, where truly, like, we're really only supposed to interact with tribes of like around 150, where you have this intimate level of knowledge of families and social connection and things like that. And then now it's like there's millions of people, thousands, like you might have 1,200 friends on Instagram or Facebook or whatever the hell, but all that stuff, it just like amplifies and makes the water shallower and shallower and that kind of thing. So there's something to be said there about, like, we talk about the 5 closest people to you and how the power of that, but also maybe having a boundary on the masses, like how many people truly do you follow and they influence you? How many, like, I don't know, like I think there's something there where, like, if we really get back to primal humans, like obviously there's a bunch of primal undertones to the chasing edges stuff, but it's in the mental skills department, I think the boundaries on people's reach to you, and then the depth of that close 5, and then like kind of have scales outside of that, I think are pretty important.
And I think that goes to the whole thing, like in life, we have to keep focusing on quality, not quantity. We really do. We have to keep focusing on quality. I think you should think about, like, in your workouts, what's quality you have versus quantity, in a sense, meaning you could be doing a ton of reps or exercises, but if it's not quality, it's kind of junk. Yeah. You could have quantity, like, oh, I have 1 million followers, but you don't have quality people in your life. You could have, you could have multiple girls or guys in your life. You could have quantity, but it's not quality. Yeah, no doubt. We could literally keep going on this. So I want you to have quality over quantity.
Yeah, I had this strength coach that used to say, like, all your bad squats equals 0, bud. Like you.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're just building strength on dysfunction or something, some way, shape, or form. But like, and it's kind of like having too much information. Like if you have too much information, it nullifies the 0, because it's like cognitive dissonance. You can't really pick. It's like picking a show on Netflix. Yeah.
Seriously now. It's the Cheesecake Factory of like the world. Like and that's also like for mental skills, I'll even say to people, you do have to cut out a lot of the distractions, because there's so much noise coming in. Information on this and what's the next thing. And while you want to be learning, you really have to, like, again, find what quality stuff you want to bring in for your season that you want to get better at, that you want to learn at, and then just focus on that. I'd said earlier, raise the bar is not doing more. It's doing what you do really well. Because people are like, I told you, they're like, Dar, I'm exhausted. How can I keep leveling up? I'm like, I'm not asking you to do more of everything. I'm saying let's take what you're really good at and let's get super solid. Because you know what the greats are great at? The niche. They're great. They're great at their position. They're great at their role. Me, mental skills and mental resiliency and helping people all day. Now, put me in finance, I am screwed.
Yeah, it's addition by subtraction. Yeah. Like, and it's like the subtle art of not giving a fuck by Mark Manson. That argument is that, like, basically the less fucks you give about more things, the more fucks you give about one thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of cuss words for our style, but yeah, eventually, and it hones down to commitment. Like by committing to one thing, one person, one habit, those things, like your time and compound interest in that department adds up and exceeds all these other distractions. So it's basically like if you really want something, you subtract all the distractions. Yeah. And like it's I mean, there's not a lot of principles to life. There's really like 12 principles that everybody packages different ways, but like eventually you get to the point where you got to commit and go, and and that's life. And then like sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but as long as you made the effort and you made the commitment, like then you can hopefully sleep decently at night. Yeah.
You just said something about you got to commit and go. I want to go somewhere if it's okay, but it's about resiliency.
Feed me. Yeah.
Meaning like Commit and go. So we're kind of getting in this world where people are, I want people to talk about their feelings. I want them to talk about their emotions. But we're getting people that are like getting offended by a lot of things, or they're taking some things in mental health and they're identifying with it rather than treating it. So I'm going to go to something soft for a second.
Feed me. I love this category.
Someone could be like, I have diabetes. Okay. And so they don't go around all day, or maybe they do. I'm diabetic. You know what? I shouldn't have this. I'm diabetic. All day, they're like in this victim role about being diabetic. How about in your life, diabetes is something I deal with, but on a day-to-day, you're not playing into it all day. You're treating it. You're working on it. You're doing the things that you need to, but it is not consuming your world. You're still getting up, showing for your purpose. You're still going after life. You're not letting it define you, and you're not letting it hold you back. So let's move to some things that are happening in the mental health world. And I am in this every day. I help people in their mental health. But you know what? I've gotten more phone calls in this past year and a half than I have in 25 years of my career of people going, Dar, I no longer want to talk about it. I want to do something about it. Great. Now let's go. Let's build some grit.
Yeah.
So you could have anxiety. You could have depression. You could be dealing with certain things, borderline, bipolar, OCD, whatever it may be. There could be tendencies. I'm not going to label you as something with that. You're having to deal with this. You are not that, okay? I don't want you to become victim or identify with it. I want you to say, hey, these are things I'm dealing with. I have tendencies towards this. What are treatments to work on this? How do we get to the root cause? And then how do we move forward through it? How do we keep going? Because we're getting people that are sitting in this too long and they're becoming it. It's becoming their identity, and then they can't move. So when you just said momentum, that's what I thought of, because I'm trying to get people out of getting stuck and into momentum, because this is taking the pendulum on mental health and it's going the wrong way now, where people are hearing about suicide and they're like, yeah, I was suicidal. And then a conversation on 2 hours on suicide goes on. And then people leave more depressed than when they came in.
Yeah, it's reinforcing. And can I jump in?
Oh yeah, because I get fired up.
No, but I'm super passionate about this as well, because like I didn't used to do that, but I also I flirted with it, but I had no lens of awareness, and I got this from the book Awareness by Anthony DeMello, which I'll talk about till I find something better, I guess. But it's so applicable that it is an identity, and people need to understand that you are human. You're going to experience the entire spectrum of emotions, and the problem that is I see occurring as well, because when I was in high school, I didn't hear suicide, depressed, anxiety, and ADD that much. And now it's very prevalent. Right. And the issue there is that you're identifying with the emotion. Yeah. I'm depressed versus I'm experiencing depression. Those are drastically different things. Right. So when you look at that, I guess a simple way of saying it is you're going to experience the whole spectrum of emotions. So you can be depressed and still laugh. You can be happy and still cry. Right. So you can't lock onto one thing, because it just reinforces and reinforces, and it's suicidal. And I think words are very powerful. Yes. I think once you hear a word, understand it, and know what it is, so that's why the mental health awareness is awesome, but it also irks me a little bit, because the more people, it's just law of dominant thought. The more you hear something and it's an option and your friends have it, you can experience it now too, and it can be reinforced, and it can just continue to pound, I am depressed. Right. Where some of that stuff may be, I'm struggling, I'm stressed about this, but what skills am I applying here? And if they have the perspective, if we taught the perspective, I'm experiencing depression, that is fine. Yeah. Every human's I've experienced it many times. Me too. But it doesn't define me. It's not my identity. Right. And then the labels are even stronger. Yeah. It's the same as once I say I'm depressed, or it's what's Republican, Democrat, just because I identify and I label myself as that doesn't mean I agree with every single stance of that political party. Same with depression. Just because I say I'm I really don't say I'm happy anymore either. Yeah. I'm experiencing happiness, and I want to be more experience happiness more than I experience sadness, and that's my scale now. It's no longer I'm this, then I'm everywhere in between. Yeah. But I don't know how to coach that effectively. Sure. I think a big part of it is the switch of oh, I am identifying with it. Like, I don't have to identify with it. I
Right.
can work on it.
Right.
And I think it could be that simple, because like that's how powerful the book was
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
And that bleeds into the whole nother concept of like labels, where like Anthony DeMello uses this really cool example where like we don't, like when we go to a restaurant, we don't go there and eat the menu. We don't eat the words. Like we go there to eat the food and like the person and experience the person. But like I don't go there like, I guess like if the labels say that you're Republican, you're kind, whatever these things are, like I go there to experience the uniqueness of you.
Yeah.
And not like
label
and not just lock you into all these terms, and then like I have this stance against your term, like against your menu. So you go and experience the human and experience all these emotions. It's not confining.
All of this is to say, keep an open, curious mind.
All day.
Because even with the mental health, just be open. Hey, these are the things that I'm feeling. And someone saying, hey, these are things that when you're depressed, this is what happens. Great. Okay. Or I have people that have had dealt with OCD, and they didn't, as soon as they heard this is OCD tendencies, they just needed to know what was going on. Once they did, they felt the relief, and it was like, okay, but these are compensatory strategies you could use to help so that you could keep moving. By the way, this is part of you. This is not all of you. And then I shift to, for a coaching perspective of, great, okay, these things come on. I want you to tell me about this. I have no problem. I love when, obviously, an athlete is like, Dar, I'm feeling so much anxiety right now. Okay, no problem. Let's figure out where it's coming from and what we're going to do about it.
Yeah.
And then we move forward from it. Let's get ready for the game. How are we going to adjust a little bit? What maybe triggered it? Let's make some adjustments. But never is it, well, then everything's over now because you have anxiety.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to call you, oh, let's put it on the scouting card, anxiety. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. You don't have to identify with it. You just have to acknowledge, like I said, let's take it out of the realm that makes sense for people because they understand physical. Yeah, maybe someone struggles with heart disease or diabetes. Okay, well, let's treat it. But then let's get on to the bigger picture. And by the way, when I talked about grit, shiz happens.
Yeah.
Life's going to happen. So sometimes it's just situational stress. It's not that you have a mental health problem.
Yeah.
It is situational stress. And you have to learn how to adjust and ride the waves of life, which means we're either going into a mess, we just came out of the mess, or we're going to be going back into it.
Yeah.
It's happening. Ride the waves. I've been through 3 strokes. I've lost people that were so close to me. There's been so much stuff that all of us had to have their backs up against the wall. And literally every time something happens, I'm like, all right, now how are we going to adjust and go forward? Because it's a choice. All of this is a choice. You could choose to stay down in the valley, or you could fight back up and go towards that top of that mountain again. But and you know what? You got to have people around you. Like I have people around me that are like, I said to them, I get 24 hours. If you give me 24 hours to feel this, talk about it, and help me through it, then let's go.
Yeah, you set a boundary on it.
I do. I'm not sitting in it.
And you understand the feel and the trigger that, like, I'm in the shit right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's fine.
And it hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Life hurts a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where like I have a lot of respect for you, and like that is like you've experienced grit. Like if you look at Angela Duckworth with Grit, where it's like these traumatic things that happened to you, so you had to adapt. But like some people don't view that as like their story, or maybe they didn't experience. Maybe they like this grit is either like you intentionally develop it or it gets thrust upon you.
That's right.
And so like I guess you've developed this level of like gratitude and compassion and positivity from it. Like how did that manifest itself?
It came from my mom. I mean, I think innately I was born with just a
big heart.
Yeah. I mean, yes.
Yeah.
But also my mother, from an early age, she had health problems that she had to struggle with, and she was in a lot of pain every day, but no one knew. I mean, we knew, but the world didn't know.
Yeah.
Because she was so driven by her purpose. She was a barber. I mean, literally, she's a barber, but she's like, people would come from, we lived in Connecticut, Boston, and New York, to sit in her chair. And not because I would say her fade was perfect. It was because of how she made people feel. Everyone was a VIP. Everyone got treated like they were someone because everyone is someone. And this woman she would come from open heart surgery, recover, and be like, I got to get back to work. And we're like, Mom. And she would go through so much adversity in life. She lost her mother at 11, her dad 2 months before her wedding. She's been resilient, worked 3 jobs. I saw this lady get up every time and get back up. So I saw what it took to have grit, but yet she still had joy. She's like, if God still wants me here, I'm getting up. And I was like, what is this lady drinking? Because I want some of it.
Yeah.
But what it was is her mental resiliency. It was her mental framework, because she said to me, Dar, you see, it's not that I don't hurt. It's not that I don't feel this, but I have a choice. I could get up today and I could keep fighting the good fight, or I could sit here and lay down. And that's just going to create a compound impact that's never going to help me. So that's the leadership that I saw from her. And then I have leadership from my dad, which would keep me out at practice 2 hours after practice, be like, your practice isn't good, so we're not going in until it's better. I was like, oh my gosh, someone changed my coach. No, just kidding. Yeah. But I mean, it's these principles of like, we're going to work at this until we get where we need to go. And every day, by the way, we've never arrived. Yeah. So we're going to keep going. So this is something that, like we talk, going back to, everything comes back, but it really is the people I have in your life. And not everyone has had parents like that. My parents struggled. So in the struggle, I found strength. They struggled their whole life. And if you haven't seen that, because you haven't been through resilience, then get people around you. I have mentors of every decade that I told you. One of them lived through the Holocaust. When I sit and I listen to her stories of what she went through, by the way, she's in her 80s doing 200 push-ups every single day.
That's awesome.
So whenever I have a hard workout, I told everyone at my gym, anytime it gets hard, I go, what would Mary do? Yeah. And they're like, damn, we better push it. Because if this lady at 80 could kick our tail, we better put in the work. So it's reframing everything.
Yeah, and it's being conscious of the circle. And so just to give the listener some background, Dar keeps somebody from like every decade, like a 10-year-old, to a 90. 20, 30, all the way up to a 90-year-old, which is really cool because that perspective and that like the wisdom from both ends of the spectrum that are going through the new generation and have already gone through and left, I think is just like a very conscientious way of like staying curious and maintaining perspective.
Yep.
Yeah, it's super special.
All of these things lead to mental resiliency. Like people are always asking me, like, how did you develop this? How do you help everyone go through this? And I'm like, well, again, go back and be curious. Learn from everyone. Don't be an extremist to the point that you are so fixed mindset that you become and identify with such a label that you are no longer hearing what are other opportunities or ways. And the other thing too is emotional agility. You have to stay emotionally agile. We don't know what look, you don't know how the play's going to go on the field, and you got to be prepared. Interception comes, guess what? Adapt. The whole play you have to adapt and change. Well, we've got to create this emotional agility in our daily life. So just even before when, we were trying to figure out some tech, I said to Brian, I was like, I am so impressed with your resiliency, because you weren't giving up and I wasn't giving up. I'm like, if we have to do this at midnight, we're going to do this at midnight. But my point is, this is a trained behavior though. You could train emotional agility. So right now, for anyone listening, when you start going at something and the moment you want to give up, that you're like, forget this, screw this, I need you to lean in and do it for a little bit longer. Lean in a little longer. Try to go a little further. The same concept goes with the discomfort of the cold plunge. But do this when someone triggers you and you want to react. Yeah. Do this when you're really frustrated and can't figure something out. Take a pause and then get back at it.
And keep going. It's a tolerance. Like same as like an alcohol tolerance. You can drink a lot of alcohol and you get better at it. Like you get more tolerant. The same with like this stress and the thing. And we talked about it earlier today, but like the mental stress is hard to tangibilize or hard to make it objective. And so as you approach the mental resiliency and that kind of thing, you need to know what that feels like, because like a lot of times it's quit, I'll take a break, or those kind of things, which are fine. But like I bring it back to the weight room, like where the struggling to finish a rep, and you can physically do that because you can see it and you feel it. Yeah. But the mental is like you can't always feel it and you can't always like know the narrative that's saying stop. Yeah. And so I've been trying to learn Spanish recently, and like I get to a point where I'm like frustrated and like I'm kind of fed up. I'm not retaining a lot, but like that is the end of the rep that I didn't lock out, that I have to keep going. So good. And so I feel like that's like that is definitely a tool that needs to be pushed into mental skills, that like it's just ways to, because everybody's perspective is so incredibly different and so unique and special, that like you have to understand the narrative in your head. You have to understand the resistance in the brain that exists too. And I mean, you touched on a lot in that rant right before that. I kind of want to go back where like obviously, like you're kind of forced into your circle. You had your parents that sound like absolute savages, that were dogs that would get up, and so you have a small circle when you're younger, and you can learn from them, and that's where like the leadership and the kids these days concept that I've talked about before, where I have this whole perspective where I don't like it when people say kids these days. Like, kids these days don't listen. Kids these days are on their phones. They're not outside, whatever. Like, I think that's all a result of leaders these days, like the parents and the teachers. And, like, I'm not targeting anybody. I'm just saying people in positions of leadership. And every person's a leader. Like, you lead yourself first, and then you lead the others around you and your loved ones in particular, your group of 5, whatever. So, like, it's really, like, this environment and the youth actions are a result of what we've tolerated, allowed, made easier, things like that. And I think a lot of responsibility needs to keep being thrust on to parents, older brothers, like anybody in positions of power, especially politicians and owners of companies, things like that. Like, this push of responsibility needs to be real and and attainable somehow, or at least the lens needs to click on that. Like even Socrates was like destroying the youth, like in some of his talks, saying that they don't care, they're loud, they're whatever. Like this is an old problem that's existing, but it gets amplified by some of the algorithms and the tech and all these things that we have available to us. And we need to swing the pendulum back into the leadership, the mental fortitude, the awareness of kids that, like, some of this stuff is like, we talk a lot about the social media, the problem and the social dilemma, which I think people need to continually watch and not forget about.
Yes.
But just because, like, we need to teach, and I need, like, it's constant refresher for me too. Like, just because we can quantify the likes and followers, just because we can count it, doesn't mean it holds value. And so, like, the more we can separate that, I think the faster, like, you understand, like, social media is a massive tool to stay in touch with friends, family, to learn, to be motivated, to market your business, everything above. But, like, we need to understand the value, accept it, and, like, because there's symptoms of this tool. They're building wings of hospitals to deal with the mental stress and toil that is happening, and it's a problem. So that's one of my pushes. Like, when parents ask me, like, oh, you coach breath work, you coach this and that and mental skills, and, like, I'm like, yeah, but, like, a lot of them are very simple problems, but they're principles. They're value systems that need to be reinforced, monitored. And when you're a parent, like, you need to set boundaries. I'm not a parent, so, like, if you're listening, you can tell me to shut up. But it's just like
boundaries are good.
It just makes sense to me. And if I ever get blessed with the opportunity to be a parent, like, I think the value system and showing, like, where you spend your time is where you see your results will be my everlasting teaching, because it's time is the most valuable thing we have. And I want myself to spend my time in the right place, and I want my kids to as well. So I guess that doesn't really bleed into a question. We kind of already covered, like, the what's the stigma of, like, mental health awareness. I think is great, but it needs to be action oriented and tools. It can't just be reinforcing words that we can cling to.
Yeah, and that's kind of why the type of work I do is what obviously has worked and what people tell me, but it's because I take people and meet them where they are and then say, okay, we're going to create a plan to go forward. We're not talking about this for 20 years. We're not sitting in this for, I need you to feel it. I need to know what's going on, but then we're going to make a game plan. There is a time and a place to be still, to reflect, but then there's a time and a place to take action. And Tony Robbins says this really well. He's like, the reason people get depressed is because they don't feel growth and contribution. He says, if you don't feel like you're growing in your sport, in your relationship, in your personal development, then you're going to feel stuck, and stuck is not a good feeling. So you have to do something that's going to get you into motion to feel like you're growing. So you need momentum, you need growth. You've got to do something. So after you reflected, you got to start moving. You need growth. Then you need to feel like what you do matters. So that's why I say loneliness could show up even on the field, because if you feel like you're not contributing on that field, you could feel so lonely. If you feel like you're not contributing in your household, you will feel lonely in your friendship circle, in your community, because then you feel like, what am I doing here? I feel like I don't even matter. So you have to figure out how you can contribute. And that's also on you to say, you know what, today, how can I add value? And I want to give an example of that, because in 2008, like I said, when I left everything to start my practice, it wasn't like I was like, okay, everyone's lined up. They didn't even know what they needed. I literally said, today, on this day, I'm going to show up and I'm going to give a talk on mindset. And it's going to be on, shifting your mindset. And literally people came, and then people from then came, because I was like, I'm going to add value to people's lives. That's how this is going to start. I didn't ask for money. I didn't charge a dime. I just showed up and was pouring knowledge. And then what happened just during COVID is everything shut down, right, in March. So literally sports shut down. I wasn't seeing anyone. I have a speaking career too, where I speak around the world. That shuts down. I said, you know what? I'm going to open up my computer. Every Monday I'm going live to everyone and anyone in the world. And I'm going to sit down and I'm going to add value to people's lives. I gave free talks again. So I didn't wait for opportunities to come to me. I created opportunity to feel like I contribute to this world. Big difference.
Yeah.
So people listening right now, you have a gift and a skill that you literally could add value to someone's life, whether it's in your sport or out of your sport, on a daily basis. And it does not mean anything about title. I left all the titles, from CEO to see this to see that. I was like, when I started, I'm like, I'm Dar. And then people were like, well, you're Coach Dar. I was like, okay, great.
Cool.
Fine. No one even knows my real name. And so it's funny, because my point is, I don't have a title. I show up as me, and that's all that's needed. So guess what? No identity could be taken away, because I get to add value. My mission is to awaken greatness. You know what? I could awaken greatness whether I'm on a field, in the Starbucks line, giving a pep talk to a stranger, going to the homeless. I'm going to show up and I'm going to find a way to add value every day, because I'm connected to that mission. That's what creates momentum, and that's what gets you out of depression and takes away fear and anxiety. Show up and add value every day to someone, somewhere. You're not going to feel that sad.
Oh, I freaking love that. I freaking love that. I like the shedding of identity.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's super powerful too. But
yeah.
I'm like, again, like you know my bit where, like, I believe help and support aren't yours to keep.
Yeah.
Like like your parents, like coaches, other people, friends, like at some point you've been helped, educated, something along those lines. You can't just hold on to that and just take and take and take. And like, it needs to be a give back. And then, like, obviously you've built your, like, we'll call it a business, your lifestyle, like all that around that. And I think it's just magic, because I love the compassion and spreading compassion myself. So I don't know how do you shed somebody's, like the NFL football player is a hard identity to shed.
Yeah.
But if I don't have that, and I look at myself as my identity is I'm athletic, I'm like that kind of thing. Like you'll never, like, you can hurt my body and to maybe take away my athleticism, but just because I'm not in the NFL anymore doesn't make me not athletic or an athlete.
You know what's crazy, Bri? I see you as someone who adds value to everyone's life because you're experienced. Like, take football out of it. Yes, you played football, and that gives you that to this day still gives you a platform to be able to teach and help people, right? But I don't identify you as, like, meaning shedding that away. I see Brian as my man who literally is a savage, who in the way that you show up for life every day, trying to get 1% better, and this loving heart. So you have the yin and the yang. You have this ability to be able to lift some extreme weights, to do extreme holding your breath, to be in the ice, and then have these deep, loving, heartfelt conversations. That's what I know you as. And that is no title. That's no identity. That's the human that I see in you. And everyone I work with, I don't see them as their role. I see them as the human, the person that they are. And that's what we have to start flipping people to say. And I don't ask people normally, like, how you doing? I say, how's your heart? How are you?
Yeah.
I hardly ask. I'm never at an event going like, tell me what you do. I say, tell me what's going on in your world. Like, what brings you joy? What are the things that you're really interested in? And eventually it leads to, where their work is. But we've got to start changing the narrative of the conversation to break down that we need identity, because when you do that and everyone starts going like, I don't care if you've run a company or you're playing pro sports. I want to know you for you. So I don't see you in a role. I see you as this awesome human that's touching a lot of lives.
Yeah, and that means the world to me too, and it just reinforces, just, I guess, like, again, keeping people like you in my circle and that kind of thing. But, like, I think what's a good way to say it? Like, being seen is very special.
Yes. Yeah.
And
seen and heard.
Yeah, seen and heard. And the identities are defense mechanisms in some realm, because like transitioning out of sport, like I felt the need to tell people, oh, like I still might play, like I'm staying busy, I'm working, I'm doing Mind Strong, I'm doing real estate, I'm doing whatever, and like I'm trying to build other identities as like a defense to the fact that like no, like honestly, like like I am this multi-dimensional person that wants to be seen, and it's tough to be seen and trust who's saying that stuff too. And so like that's why I really like the connection side of it and the contribution, because like I have felt lonely for not contributing, like, because as an athlete you go down the rabbit hole of like in the NFL is like not for long, and it's what have you done for me lately, so that all that is contribution. So if you're not contributing to the team, you isolate yourself from a production standpoint, from a teammate standpoint, and eventually socially. So how did, like, I guess say somebody's in the mix, because you're coaching guys that are still playing, obviously, and they're experiencing that loneliness, and they're playing bad, like like I'm sure you've had some people that are playing bad that aren't contributing. So, like, how do you twist and contort that and strip it away? And
this is on a daily basis, because not every game are you necessarily going to put up points. And whatever that game is, because however you define your performance, not every day is going to be a Super Bowl winning performance, right? So this is where I get super excited, because I think I've said this to before. Today, I just had this conversation literally today, because the person is not, they're like, I feel the most confident and ready I ever felt, but I'm not putting up the points that I know I can. I was like, well, hello, how about we look at, you've been working years to get your body and mind ready, and now you're ready. I said, you know what's epic? You're the making of 30 for 30 right now. I was like, because I don't want you to discount. Yeah, the points aren't coming, but they will. And, it's also the making of a better team. I said, so there is the making of a team. So you keep making yourself great. You're going up. So if you can't see me, my hand's going up. And then opportunity is going to meet all this hard work. And then that's when that happens. It's like euphoria happens.
It's a tipping point. It's a trust. It's a faith.
So I just want to say, like, you are the making of 30 for 30. Another person that I was just working with them, they're going to be in the next Olympics. And I was like, and I could tell they were a little off today. I was like, pfft. And they were like, I wasn't good on this part of my set for gymnastics. And I was like, great. I was like, why weren't you good at it? And they're like, well, they increased the difficulty level. I was like, okay. Well, are you in the Olympics today? And they're like, no. I go, no, because you're going to. And I said, you increased the difficulty. Tell me where you were 4 months ago. Were you at even this level? And they were like, no. I said, so you worked on it and got better. They're like, right. I said, so now we're taking you to another level. Did you think it was going to come easy? They were like, no. I was like, so this tension, this tension you're feeling, this is awesome. This is where the growth's happening. This is freaking epic, because you're about to do something that your brain and your body's like, damn, we've never done this before. But then what's it's going to do? It's going to get you to that platform to win gold. So take this and use it for good. Same thing I said with the other guy. He's not getting the points he needs. I said, okay, great. You're going to get it because you're going to stay in it. So use it for mental fuel. We are all no 30 for 30s without adversity. That's boring.
I kind of love there's like kind of like a duality there where, like be the superhero, like be the superhero, like, and you're the underdog right now because you're not putting the points up and that kind of thing. But then also like there's the stress of being the hero. So now like one, I guess, sometimes the most heroic thing you can do is try not to be the hero. And like that's where like the consistency and even though you're not seeing the results, keep pounding and
stay
pounding.
In the process.
And that's where like the magic happens. But like what you're doing, it sounds like, is you're demystifying the daily struggle, and the emphasis is that it is a daily thing. If you're pushing for greatness or being great at any particular skill, like there's always resistance and there's always like, again, like adversity, uncertainty, and attention, all these things that sports and big high performers experience, like like that triggers the negativity bias in the brain. And so now it's like it needs to be, you need to have daily defenses and daily feel to or a daily dar to
daily dose of dar.
Daily dose of dar to demystify that part of life and part of your greatness pursuit.
Well, I mean, even just look at Navy SEALs. One of my buddies, I asked him, I said, how'd you endure it? And he said, I mentally said, if I could do this, if I could prove this to myself and I could get through this, he goes, there's nothing that's going to touch me in this world. And I just mentally wanted to go there. I wanted to be brought to the rock bottom just to see if I could get up and do it. He's like, and every day I was like, you got this. You got this. And he's like, and then when I did it, I was like, what in the world could I not do then?
Yeah.
And so it's not trying to prove anything to anyone else. It's proven to yourself. And so I don't want you to be a hero for the whole world. I want you to just prove that in the daily process of being consistent and grinding this out, greatness will come. Because you know what most of the world's doing, Brian? They're giving up. That's where we went from everyone just settles towards average and they're like, you know what, this is too hard and I'm settling. The only reason we know about the greats is because they didn't give up.
Yeah.
You don't know, but the reason we don't know about some of the people we don't know about is because they gave up.
Yeah.
So just stay in the fight and stay in the game for what you really want to do. And if you keep working at it, it will happen. It's laws of physics. Like even in hockey, I'm like, I look at how many shots on goal. I was like, if there's only one shot on goal, the probability of you getting a goal is not going to happen.
Yes.
Hello.
Shooting,
8 shots on goal, 12. I'm psyched about that because the probability is you're going to get it.
Yeah.
So in life, let's get more shots on goal. Let's keep showing up. Let's keep building this resiliency because you're going to win. You're going to have that goal. It's going to work out for you. And I don't mean this just in sport. Relationships. The grass is not greener where you water it. It's greener on the other side. It's greener where you water it. The grass is not greener on the other side. It's greener where you water it. Let's start watering the things that you want to grow and stay in it. You're going to see results. And it's going to make you feel more fulfilled. Get out of the labels. Get out of it. This having to identify with a certain role. Be you. Just be you. You know what, Brian, whether you have a identity in something, you are someone who is always optimizing life and performance. Does that have a role to it? Nope. You can do that in anything.
You can't attack that.
Yeah. So what do? I optimize life and performance for myself and others. Damn, that's awesome.
Yeah.
There's no role to that.
Yeah, that might be my new job title now after this podcast. Yeah,
it just came to me because that's what you do.
Yeah, that's dynamite. And I do truly think that growth is human happiness. I do think that
it is.
And it's like that set a goal and feel the accomplishment, but never arrive. And it's it's all these compounding philosophies, but everything's pushing forward. And everybody needs a purpose. Everybody needs something to go for. And it doesn't have to be another higher job or a higher championship or whatever. It can be deeper. It can be a deeper relationship, a deeper understanding, more education, that kind of thing. Where it's I try not to keep everything in sports on the podcast. I try and deviate a little bit. I talk to a lot of athletes and obviously people that work in sports, but I'd like to try and pull more to the every man, the every woman, that kind of thing, where I think all that's super relatable. And you touched on it real quick with the Navy SEAL and the rock bottom. And that I've heard some different stances on rock bottom, and the cool thing about the human mind is we can determine where rock bottom is. Yeah. If you don't like where you're at right now, draw a hard line and that's your bottom. And now let's start bouncing up.
Yes.
And I've had some really cool talks with special forces guys as well. And this Navy, he was I think he's a recon sniper. He might have been Navy SEAL, but he hit me with the massive effect of suicide on ex-military, especially special forces and things like that. And he goes, he talks about reframing, and I freaking love this. And I try, when people have told me they're suicidal or things along those lines, he hit me with this. He goes, "You're right. Something does need to die." Yeah. But it's not your body. It is not your body. So good. It is your habits. It is your thoughts. It is maybe the people around you, not physically, but you're right. Something needs to die. And it hit me so hard. I was like, that's so powerful, because it can apply to being suicidal and change your perspective. Okay, my habits need to change. Right. My thoughts need to change. Let's kill those first.
That is so good.
Yeah. And it was super powerful to me. And then, but it applied to my life. When I was ever upset or felt stuck and those things, what needs to die. Right. And it's who I'm listening to. It's how much time I'm spending on my phone. And I learned really early on in my professional football career not to listen to anybody. And because going through the Arena League and the UFL and the CFL, I got some rocks thrown at me, and I use it as motivation, and I reframe the rocks and that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, it's you versus you, and like this, and we talked about this as well today, where like Tim Ferriss says that you can measure the growth of a person by the number of uncomfortable conversations they'll have or they've had. And it's not just with other people like me and you and pushing each other and those uncomfortable conversations with the loved one or something like that. It's how many uncomfortable conversations can you have with yourself in your head and overcome that? And because that's just the repetition. It's like the childhood stories for me that repeat and change my perspective. Like, I need to have more uncomfortable conversations to settle that and put that demon to sleep. So I just thought that I just wanted to get that perspective out there, because like the rock bottom and I don't understand suicide, and it blows my mind, and it makes me empathize and sad in these things, but it also like pushes me towards like, how can I help somebody or how can I change somebody's perspective? Because you never, like, honestly, I don't know who's hurting. Like I've seen some very massive people hurt very hard, and and from like a social stardom aspect. And so for me, it's your perspective. Like, how much can I add? Who can I help? And I don't think that takes away from anything I'm doing. I think it's just kind of like a lifestyle now at this point where, like I saying like big hearts are in our business. And and to some extent I always tell people like the only advice I can give you is to follow your heart, but like where the podcast and things like that, like that's where we can hopefully maybe that line helps somebody, or maybe like your approach to like the anxiety and the depression like pull somebody out of it. And like I just think, I don't know. I'm vibing with this combo right now.
I just want to say something about pull someone with it. Yeah. So I had someone that called me that was suicidal. And of course, the first thing if you say, do you need anything? They're going to say no. Yeah. Do you want, let's go do something? No. They're stuck in the hole. Okay. For anyone listening that has that, you are to show up at their house, and you are to get them up and say, you're getting dressed, and we're going to do something. You're going to help change their state. You're going to make them laugh somehow. They don't want to. They don't want to. Their brain is holding them hostage at that point. You have to literally come in like you're doing hostage negotiations here, truly, to get them to unlock that belief system for that moment that they think it is better off to leave this world and leave all of this. And you've got to help them reframe. I showed up at this person's house. I said, get dressed. You're coming with me. Obviously, they didn't want to go, but I got them to get out. I knew the tools of what to use. And I literally brought them to the golf course I got them out in nature, okay? Yeah. Number one, I got them out in nature. I changed their state. I cannot play golf to save my life, but I love it. I love going out there. I'll probably lose like 9 balls, by the time we're done, maybe a hole 12. So this person's laughing because I'm like, what the hell? I hit it in the freaking trees again. Yeah. But my point was I was just trying to let them just let go of the hamster wheel thought process. As soon as I was able to change their state for a minute, that's when I knew I unlocked them. The hostage negotiations were working with their brain, and now I could start talking to them. And I could start talking about the things about purpose, about why they need to live, about who they need to live for, about how they still add value, reminding them that they still have worth. Then they could hear it, okay? So there's steps to do this. And then you start reminding them. Now I'll always remember what you said with, there are certain things that have to die. Like sitting and binging on that TV right now when you're in depression. Hello, when you're sad and you put on sad songs. Yeah. It is the worst thing to do. There's
cues. And people, again, I have this complaint that people are very far away from feel. They don't know how they're feeling. They turn on the TV to escape. Like there's escapism, there's the numbing is drinking, alcohol, caffeine, whatever medication you're on. Like I'm not, if you're medicated, take your medication and that kind of thing. But like we're reaching for things and we're not sitting and feeling things. So like that is like, it could be conceived as their only option. Yeah. So like I'm a big believer in nature. I love nature. I'm out in nature as much as I can. And now there's science behind it. And there's people like, again, Michael Easter writing The Comfort Crisis and things like that, where it's like, literally like 20 minutes a day in nature, and I think it's only like 5 times a week. It's not every day, like cuts depression and anxiety by like 30-40% or something along those lines. Yeah, it's massive. And then it also like, but like if you're out in nature and you look at your phone, it gets nullified. And like, so like that takes away from it. And it's like, it's the locking and focusing on one thing is like sympathetic fight and flight. You need, when you're outside and your peripherals are on, there's this visual cue that's calming, and you're seeing the world, and that breaks down a lot more and more. But like, I think nature is a great medicine. And I love the idea of like, cause like I haven't had those conversations a lot, the suicide stuff, but like, I think that is cause like, you can't just like, you can kind of talk them out of it and they said, all right, yeah, good night. Like that's like there needs massive action in those scenarios.
Massive.
Yeah.
Their brain is literally held under hostage. They're thinking in a way that's not obviously going to work for them. So they need help. So I just wanted to make that point, like go show up, and you got to show up and help someone. And by the way, I mean, yeah, well, we could go down a whole rabbit trail on that. So I don't want to, but just go and show up and help people get out of that and reframe it. But to Brian's point too, honestly, get people out in nature, get yourself out in nature. And it's just like when you go to do a workout, get off your phone and do your workout. Let's just make this a global point. Whatever you do, be fully present. Like right now, we're in this moment. Nothing else matters. There's so many things that like in our worlds that will have to get done. It doesn't matter. When I'm in doing whatever I'm in, you can't reach me when I'm in with people. Like there's no access because I'm fully in the moment. And that's that, whether you're doing a meditation, but you also could be mindful and in meditation by fully being present in what you're supposed to be present in. And that's a lost art in itself that we have to bring back, because when you're fully in something, you could feel all the emotions that we're picking up on, all the cues to feel every part of this. But if you're not mentally all there and you're thinking of other things, you're missing the whole moment of this. And you honestly can't give 100%, which to me, I don't even understand that. Excellence is excellence. The bar on this right now, this is all that matters. I'm giving everything that I can that you ask of me. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. I'm either all in or I'm out.
Which is so cool, because I've like commitment is a thing for me. But the cool thing about that, and I had Nate Ebner on the podcast, whatever podcast 3 or 4, but he has this really cool perspective on being all in and 100% effort, and we talk about all the time where the only thing you can control is effort and attitude.
Yes.
And if you're truly 100% on effort and say this conversation, like you're not checking your phone, like you're not looking around, you're not like you're in it. Yeah. And from the regret concept that Nate brings up, like if you give 100% to everything, or the things that you're very intentional about, your goals, football, your relationship kind of thing, if you win or lose, like you can go to bed sound with that. Like you don't have to look back and look and regret and say like, was I trying? Did I try? Did I go all in? Like make the effort constant, not a variable, and like your life will be simplified, because things become a little more binary at that point, where it's like, did I try? Yeah, I tried and it didn't work out. Okay. Did I not try? Well, where did I try? And then now that's a rabbit hole. Right. So I think that's really powerful. And I do think, and I struggle with massively too. Like the presence thing is, we have these distractions. So like you need to like consciously be like, hey, I'm going to be like present in my conversations today. Yep. Maybe start with the first conversation of the day. Maybe start with the first meditation, or however you start your day. But like be all in on the first thing and then try on the second thing. I don't know. Like I just, I'm looking to implement that more in my life. Yeah. So that's where like what, give me some tidbits, some nice wisdom.
You said in the morning, and I shared this once before with you. Literally, if you want to win, you've heard the expression of make your bed in the morning, you win. But we're talking about being present. This is a very simple thing that most people do not do. When you are brushing your teeth, I want you to literally think about nothing but brushing your teeth. And usually, like a lot of people have electric toothbrushes now. I did this for this guy that was literally came from the minors into the pros in baseball. And when he came in, it went right into playoffs to the World Series as a pitcher. And it was about mental focus. And I said, do you have a toothbrush? He's like, yes. And I'm like, it's 2 minutes, that toothbrush. And it vibrates every time you're supposed to change quadrants. I want you to focus on that, because most people, when they're brushing their teeth, they're checking their phone, they're putting on their shoe, they're doing multiple things while they're brushing your teeth. Yeah. No. The first win you can make on to help with mental focus and sustainability is start practicing focusing on brushing your teeth. Like, did I get this full area? It sounds so silly, but we have to train our brain like we train our body to take even the mundane exercises and tasks and see if we could stay focused. Because it's easy to stay focused on things you're passionate about.
Yeah.
But what about when they're the mundane things that you need to stay, or when your brain starts to drift, can you bring it back? I do this all the time with people to increase their mental sustainability, which will then translate to the field or your career. Or I give keynote speeches. I need to be able to sustain no matter what distractions are going on to land this plane to get the whole crowd going. So what do I have to do? I have to focus, which means every day I practice on these little things that my brain would normally not want to focus on. But by doing it, I just want it.
Yeah, you're flexing the muscle.
Totally.
You're stressing the muscle for adaptation.
I got this.
So now you can now presence is a muscle that you're capable, or you're building. It's stronger. It's yoked. It's ripped. You know.
Hey, by the way, when you're listening to this podcast, don't zone out. Listen all the way through.
Yeah, lock in. Yeah, but and again, it's a perspective on your focus. And I don't even know if I guess I lack focus in that category, but I don't focus is not something I put on my to-do list for the day. Focus is not a goal I've ever set. Mm-hmm. And but that is something I want to improve on, because the presence is a focus.
Yep.
And it's an intentional.
It's a gift.
Yeah.
It is. Presence, the present is a gift. I mean, truly, it's the depression comes from keeping our mindset in the past. Anxiety is about the future. Joy comes from being in the moment, which is the present. And I think the greatest thing we could do is help keep training our brain to be present. And by the way, I said this before, but time is the greatest commodity. And when we give someone our time by fully being present, being there and listening them so they feel seen and heard, which means love, it'll heal all things.
Hell yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's you. I love that. How let me see how deep we are into this. Where did it start that we were not that present? It's
well, we have so many distractions now. I mean, we talked about relationships. Everyone is there's so many options out there with all these apps and stuff that if something's not going right, people are like, meh, I'll go get the next thing. And if that doesn't work, I'll go get the next thing. Careers. I don't know. I might stay in this for 3 years. I don't like it. I'm going to change. There's no more of how about let's get a little uncomfortable and let's see if we could work on this. Going back to Brian's point, your point, Bri, let me make sure I gave everything I had before I jump ship on something, okay? Because we're jumping ship because there's so many options. And you will constantly be chasing a carrot that you will never catch up to. I had a guy who came to me who said, multimillionaire, and he goes, Coach, I need you to make me the next billionaire. And I looked at him, I go, why? He's like, because I want a boat. He told me the size boat, and it was massive, with the helicopter. And I said to him, why? And he goes, because I do. It's a sense of accomplishment. I just want to get there. I go, why? He's like, because I want to know that I could achieve it. I said, when I get you there and I get you the boat, I'm going to bring you to Monte Carlo. And guess what's going to happen? The next bigger boat's going to come in. And you're going to tell me you want that boat. I said, there needs to be more substance to this. Your whys have to relate to something way bigger than this. I said, so no, I'm not coaching you. He's like, this is ridiculous. And I said, no, it's not. I said, you don't have depth to your why. It's truly a superficial thing. It's because you're trying to identify with something. There's nothing wrong with having it. Go after it. Set the goal. But your underlying why is not good motive, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a monster in this, and I'm going to get you to get that, and then you're going to want the next thing because you're just chasing for how people see you. I said, if it's for you in a true sense of accomplishment, we might have something, but I know that's not the intention. So I say all this because we live in this world where there's a lot of options. Again, we're trying to grasp at this identity, and we got to get people to stick at committing. We got to get people to not trying to appease the masses to feel like they have significance. You already are significant. You're the CEO of your own. You want a title? Call yourself CEO of your own enterprise. There you go.
Done.
What?
Sold.
What the? Stop with the titles. Give yourself your title if you need to, but we're living in a world that we're trying to impress other people. By the way, we're trying to impress other people that aren't even really thinking about us or caring about us on a day-to-day basis. Why don't you start on adding value to the people that are right in front of you? We give more to the people on social media and the outside world than we do in our own home. Think about that. We're giving all this attention, energy, and then we come home and we give people in our house the least of us. And we give these strangers the best of us. That's jacked up.
Yeah, for sure.
Totally jacked. Reverse that. Give the people right in front of you everything you have, and then everyone else gets the rest.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And to that other people bit, like me and Harv have this bit where it's like nobody goes to bed thinking about you. So like, yeah, like to take care of your business. But like I don't know if I can't remember what book this is from, but I like the stance that like happiness is our natural state.
Yeah.
It might be Naval Ravikant or DeMello, I don't know,
favorite.
but yeah, but like happiness is our natural state. Like it's until it's like a child, they're curious and happy and like they're just pretty sound in their state. But when we start adding things, cars, relationships, books, like that, those kind of things, like all those things, like you get programmed by your parents and those things. So like, and those programmings teach you to want this or want that and that kind of thing. So eventually, like the best path to happiness is subtraction.
Yeah.
All across the board. And have people and things you care about, but minimalism is massive. And we kind of got away from the first question I usually ask people, and we'll wrap it up after this. But like, where in your life right now are you curious and chasing edges? Like what are you learning and pursuing?
Oh, mine right now is I am so much on this whole so much of what we're doing, but I want to figure out how to keep getting people to figure out how to lean into some more discomfort in this world, and what modalities could I use. So the cold plunge, the breath work, like holding, those are some modalities, but I'm reading a ton now of what modalities I could find to keep pushing people to start to feel these edges and this discomfort, and even in myself, really identifying what's still making me uncomfortable that I need to lean into, because I know if I can get people out of complacency and I could get them out of this coasting in this life and really start to feel some of this, it's going to create epicness. And I want to end my life sliding in on home in heaven, like on empty, that I gave everything to everyone. So I have this massive curiosity right now to how do we push the boundaries a little bit to create something that's going to be epic, that when we lay down at night, we're like, damn, I'm so glad I pushed myself, or I helped someone with this. So finding more ways to keep pushing people. And I'm trying to figure out and community and connection, which I shared with you. I really am big on creating a space and a place for people that they get to connect and have this connection, because that's going to defeat this isolation. This loneliness is bothering me. And this world of where we're going, like I told you, this meta universe, and oh my gosh, like I want retreats with people live in person, and I want to create experiences for people that whether I'm here or not, they get to connect, and they now have more support in this world, because I don't want people feeling alone. I want them to push them boundaries. I want people to excel in life. I want them to live the fullest. Like average and coasting is literally flatlining. You're dying when you flatline, okay? Yeah. So you want to see the heartbeat in life, the up and the down, the dun, 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 dun. Even though you're trying to say like, no, Dar, I don't want another valley. Yeah, you do. We're all going to have them. But then that means there's another beat up, and we're going to have another high. Then we're going to have a valley, but that next beat's going to bring us back up. We need that to feel the heartbeat of life. We don't want a flatline. Don't look for flatlines. Don't chase the coasting. Chase the edges, to your point. Chase that heartbeat of life, the ups and the downs, and you will have so much more of a fulfilled life. And then go connect in community. Let's obliterate this loneliness world. And man, I want to be an outlier. I want to be a pioneer, and I want to the norm of the world is to keep isolating, staying virtual. Hell to the no.
Push back. Yeah.
No, push back, and let's start connecting more. And we need in-person interaction. Why are we seeing increased mental health and loneliness and all this? It's because of that. So we've got to fight this.
Yeah.
Fight the good fight.
Jeez, that's you're strumming not my pain with your fingers. You're pulling on my heartstrings like that. I just think that's so freaking powerful, and you said it beautifully too. Because I want to go wherever I go when I die. Yeah. I want to go with scars and stories and adventures, not things and piles of crap. And I watched 1,000 movies, but where'd that get me? Yeah. So I always kind of I like to look at the macro of life, and then the micro, where it's the day-to-day adventures and the day-to-day pushing and uncomfort and those kind of things. And we'll kind of wrap it up on this, just because I love this freaking quote, because what you're saying is also people need to intentionally keep growing and keep dreaming and keep things. And then basically the quote that I love is we don't become old until regrets replace dreams. And that's where, like, it doesn't matter what you're in touch with people in every decade right now, which is really cool. And now you can see where, like, it doesn't matter if you're 50, 60, 70 and you still have a dream, or the push-up, the 80, she does 80 and does 200 push-ups.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, maybe that's her dream, and that keeps her fighting off regret and fighting off the Grim Reaper, whatever it ends up being. But, like, yeah, like, let's like, come on, like, let's burn bright. Like, it's
that's
just,
right. Have the stories to be able to tell. You know?
and you can, and we've laid it out here where it's like you can practically like not defeat, but you have tools now to combat your identity issues, some anxieties and stresses and suicides and that kind of thing. And now, like, you start reframing, and now you start flexing that focus muscle. And now the focus is no longer on my valleys. The focus is on the next up, or or the next identity I need to shed and let it die, so that I can, like, be free and grow and happy and that kind of thing. So I think that last bout, that rant, you just it hit, and I think it summed up the whole podcast beautifully. And you know, I love you. I just Thanks, thank you for getting on here. And then how can people find you?
So you can go on my social is at the Coach Dar. And then you can go, coachdar.com is my website. There's stuff that you could find there. And then I recently started a show on this new app that Mark Cuban started called Fireside Chat. You could download the app, or you can go on my social, and it's in my bio. But every day I go live, 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. I give a daily dose of Dar. The show's Awakening Greatness. And then I bring guests on like Brian and other people. So the show is just there to, you know, give you that little nugget, that little dose to get you going, to help you mentally shift up to take on the day. But here's the thing. All of this information is great, but you got to apply it. Like I always say, like, knowledge is great, but knowledge applied is wisdom. Don't waste your life just listening and not applying. Listen and then do something with it. Because if you're going to have those stories and have those scars and the battles, and like, life's going to get gritty and awesome, it's because you have to have shown up to the game.
You got to get in the fire.
Yeah.
Like, you got to
get in the arena.
Get off the couch.
Get off the couch.
And get off the fire. And one more quote then. We feel free when we escape, even if it's from the frying pan into the fire.
Oh,
like,
heck yeah.
So if you're in the shit, like, jump into another fire and, like, learn and grow and, like, get scars and accept that part of life, that, like, uncertainty and fear and hurt are part of life. And and after that, like, wear the scars, be proud of them, and go.
Totally.
Yeah.
Just go live.
Yeah.
Go make it happen.
It seems simple, you know. It seems simple enough. So hopefully everybody enjoyed the podcast. And again, thank you so much.
Having me on,
you're a
Brian.
stud. Yeah.